So you come home from a long day of school or work, and you forget to take your shoes off while you're walking into the house. Somebody yells at you and says, "Hey, take your shoes off, put them in the closet." Yeah, these aren't the kind of house rules we're talking about, but what are some house rules that everyone hates? The worst ones are usually very specific and single out a particular class feature that the DM doesn't like or conversely wants to improve. Or they are broadly applied rules that disproportionately affect one class or set of classes. Some that I've read throughout the years on here that I've hated. Evokers can't sculpt spells. Rogues get multi-attack. This one really isn't a house rule, but a pacing of play that doesn't use short rests, or always lets the party long rest, and as a result devalues the warlock. Critical failures, way worse for martials. Allowing players to swap out damage types on spells, assuming that all damage types are essentially equal. As an example, your wizard can now cast Force Ball. DMs letting both their players and their monsters take hostile actions outside of initiative. Again, there are specific subclasses that are basically built around going as early in initiative as possible, and they're hurt by this. Letting the wizard fireball the room for free before initiative is rolled makes options like the assassin way less appealing. Now, I've played a lot of XCOM in my day. Hey, so have I. So, a few years ago, I thought it might be nice to allow my players to forego their movement to get another entire action while keeping their bonus action. Hey, you don't want to move? Great! Use the time you would have spent moving for another attack. I figured since you can do the exact opposite with dash, why not the other way around? Actually, doesn't sound that bad in writing, but oh god, it was horrible. No one wanted to move once they got in range of an enemy, melee or otherwise, and CR ratings suddenly mattered very little, since any martial PC's DPS effectively doubled, and any caster at least got another non-spell attack. I obviously wasn't experienced enough to know why this was a bad idea, so I wasn't experienced enough to shift the difficulty around that house rule. I thought I was being clever, innovative, but no, it was a nightmare. Oh boy, this one's not from me, but from my first DM when I started playing. Every time you cast a leveled spell, you roll a d20. If the d20 landed on or above your spellcasting stat, the raw number of your int, whiz, or charisma, you roll on the wild magic table. Essentially, his logic was that magic was difficult to control. As you get better at casting spells, increasing your modifier, you also get better at making sure spells don't go awry. It led to some interesting moments, and since this was just a group of friends, we all enjoyed it quite a bit. It was funny. This DM also had a weird habit of making people roll modifierless D100s for things that would have logically been skill checks. Overall, great guy, not so great DM. Feel like what he wanted out of a game could have been done with another system. My DM makes it so that ranged weapons cannot hit anything that a queen in chess couldn't. I hate this rule, and my theory is that my DM hates anything that's not a melee martial class. So has the DM ever seen anyone shoot a bow or a gun or anything, really? I mean, what in the fresh hell has ever possessed this DM to come up with this rule? I mean, OP is probably right, OP being the original poster. I think the DM just doesn't like ranged classes. I mean, honestly, you have some people out there who just completely hate rangers because they're basically a rogue and a druid put together with all the good bits taken out. But you don't gotta punish people for playing a ranged class. Reward them for their initiative and for their imagination. Just don't punish them for being a, ranged class, dick. Not my rule, but a DM I had house ruled that critical hits bypassed any resistance. Boy, did my raging barbarian not like that. I allow large player races and large weapons. Large weapons have the same damage dice as their medium counterparts, but roll a proficiency die instead of adding their proficiency bonus to attack rolls. Bounded accuracy definitely wasn't designed with proficiency dice in mind, but there have been just as many times the die rolled worse as it rolled better than proficiency bonus. My group feels like it captures the fantasy of being a lumbering character with big, heavy swings pretty well. And it's better than adding extra damage dice since it doesn't make a large character the automatic choice for a strength-based build. If you roll really well, expect one of those to be turned into a 9 for balancing your character. Wait, what? Huh? Not my role, but my DM's. When they first told me, I was a bit bothered by it. As a novice player, I get easily scared by negative numbers since I don't have enough experience playing to trust I'll survive long with the handicaps. But in the end, I accepted it for the sake of flavor and roleplay. After all, that's what your party is there for, right? To cover each other's weaknesses? Shame that as a bard, I put my 9 on strength before knowing the entire party has gone Dex Wisdom builds. So nobody in our group can do strength checks right. Way damn noodle on, boys! I don't care for the both weapons are light inherent part of 2-weapon fighting and allow a D8 main hand to be used with a D4 offhand without a feat by anyone proficient with the weapons. At my table, if you are invisible, you can basically take the hide action for free. Started mainly as a misunderstanding of the rules, but I just don't see a reason to play the way the rules say you should. They don't make sense to me. Death save failures don't reset until a long rest. Nat 1s on death saves only cause 1 failure. More reason to get your man up from 0 instead of saying, well, he hasn't had any failures yet, and less chance a character will die due to bad luck. Overall, a very minor impact to gameplay, but I've been downvoted for this house rule before. Why? We might fudge how many attunement slots PCs have and what items are attunement. Attunement is not very balanced and it feels overly restricted, and in some cases, it makes no sense what does and doesn't require it. Hey, I agree. Magical item should be a magical item, unless it's something to do with a warlock or a class-specific thing, which makes more sense than not. I designed a bunch of weapon classes for my marshals since so much of their combat was swing, swing, pass. They added extra stuff you could do in combat, like taking a -5 to hit to treat the hit as a crit, or being able to knock a creature prone if you had advantage and both dice would have hit. It added more variance at least, but made marshals a little more taxing to run. I don't allow my characters to identify magic items through any means besides identify, and it may not even work for artifacts. Allowing identification with a short rest is lame. Playing 2nd edition, I loved having to seek out and hire wizards to identify magic items because it was an opportunity for role-playing and incentivized going into town. I slowed down spell slot gain for all full casters to a new spell level every 3 levels. So level 19 casters get level 7 spell slots for the first time. That is 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25. This means that level 8 and 9 spells would be epic or unattainable. What it really means in practice is the game still feels like D&D up to level 18. Instead of starting to break at the seams at level 13 and going to hell by level 15, and martial characters stay meaningful most of the time. You don't get feats through ASI, you get them by spending downtime training for them. For dual-wielding characters, both attacks are made with a single roll, and you can use extra attack using both weapons. I personally feel like it's a very underpowered subclass, as is, and I wanted to give it a boost to the characters using it. Great weapon fighters typically get magic weapons to accommodate for the damage leap 2-weapon characters get. I'll probably get hate for it, but my players like it and I don't really mind. Bonus action to use a potion of healing. This sub hates it for some reason. Edit. My table has recently started using the bonus action roll, full action / max healing. Thanks to everyone for mentioning it. I was unaware of how popular that particular house rule was. I roll death saves behind the screen. It instantly stops metagaming for healing of the, oh, he's still got 2 death saves left, incites genuine tension with my players, and is the one house rule every player has told me they don't like. I actually, as the narrator, love this idea because you're removing metagaming. Metagaming being the ability to judge what's going on behind the scenes out of character rather than in character trying to just say, hey, look, that guy's in danger, we might as well help him regardless of the death saves he has. Because in real life, if you're bleeding out, you're bleeding out. Go help the fucker. Or don't. All wishes go through several iterations of Google Translate. I've originally did it because I didn't want to bother with trying to think of monkey's paw style twists on my own. But I found that it encouraged my players to keep their wishes short instead of long and complex, which are more likely to backfire. Depending on the setting, some races may be limited to only the PHB. Edit. In my Eberron campaign, players were limited to races from the player handbook and Eberron, rising from the last war. Sacred Flames does half damage on a successful save. Why break the game and make this the undisputed best cantrip? Misremembered the rule 6 years ago, and no player has ever complained. I don't allow guidance, because I think in practice it's toxic to gameplay and the narrative, and I'm not interested in policing its usage. I don't allow the original spells that summon multiple creatures, conjure animals, animate objects, etc., because I think they absolutely wreck logistics and tempo of combat, and I just don't want to deal with them. Now, I know the goal of this list was to showcase homebrew rules that people would hate, and I definitely hate all of this one. Mostly because these are the homebrew rules of a DM that's pretty much saying that they're lazy. Now, I can understand the first one being kind of toxic and you don't want any kind of metagaming going on. However, the second one, listen, I play a necromancer on Diablo 2 and I want my gigantic skeleton army and my golems and all of the other revived monsters at my back. If Blizzard suddenly said, oh, you can't have that, which they said that in Diablo 3, the bastards, then I'm literally sitting there thinking, either you're lazy and you don't want to program in a better system, or you're just assholes. So that second rule can go fuck itself. You can only take long rest benefits if you take a long rest in safe places. If you don't, then you just take the same benefits of a short rest. This is a way to make short rest benefits feel better and more useful. Also, players started to actually plan their travels, which was good. Of course, to make up for it, I add more safe places to rest, roadside inns and taverns open to all hunting lodges, and small forts which gave food and shelter to travelers in exchange for work and trade. A player wanted to pull a "Get Down, Mr. President" on an NPC. So I made an impromptu house roll. When you are within 5 feet of a creature that fails an AoE cone, a dragon's breath or a cone of cold, etc., or is hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to move in front of the creature to negate the damage taken by the PC or NPC who failed to save. You, however, take full damage. I let the player know that if I make this rule, enemies can do it to their allies as well. I actually kind of like that rule too, because it means self-sacrifice is going to be a big feature for people. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, back at it again, checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, to subscribe, and to ring that little bell there to get notified whenever we post a new video, or in case we go live. Normally, we're going to be going live on Twitch, sometimes, very rarely on YouTube, and I bet you we might go live on TikTok at least once. So make sure to follow us on Twitch, TikTok, and of course, here too. You got a story you want to share with us? Please do so in the comments below, but primarily go and do it over on the subreddit r/MrRipper. Using a help action, you can come say hi to me too, by the way, Brian Von VA over on Twitch and YouTube, where I do a lot of D&D stuff and a lot of games and just talking in general about voice acting. Come ask questions, come hang out, come say hi. That being said, I try to end things on a positive, and hey, honestly, I want to say this. If you have a house rule that you think someone's going to hate, put it out there. Put it in the comments below, put it out in the world, test it on your players and say, hey, how can I improve it? Because everything has to go through that beta phase, that alpha phase, that trial phase before it actually becomes perfect. So go try your house rule, because I would say a good 50% or more of these that I've read today are actually really innovative or pretty darn smart to begin with. So you never know if your players are going to like it or hate it. Just give them a taste and say, hey, what can I do better? Be open to criticism, be open to some imagination, all the love, be safe, be happy, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.